Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. I've been able to pump out some nice content for you guys the last couple of days. One, I sprained my ankle, as I said in the halftime and post game show for Iowa versus Illinois State. And then, of course, it is Labor Day weekend. So this has worked out quite nicely. And there's some big news. On Facebook, I've been posting about this. I've given recaps and kind of where things stand videos for the remaining targets that are currently on the board. And once Yossi Epinesa once that news dropped, the remaining target was fellow state of Illinois native Terrence Smith, wide receiver Terrence Smith. And Iowa obviously was in great position for him. I was a little bit concerned that he was merely waiting to see if bigger schools jumped in the mix, as he was not super pumped about Iowa. Because if you think about it from a wide receiver's perspective, if you are fairly highly rated by the recruiting services and the top offers you have are from more run heavy, not known for offensive programs like a Minnesota and Iowa, it makes sense to possibly wait a little while to see where things drop. Especially, I mean, I thought he may even wait until part of the way through his senior season to see if he got some bigger offers. Purdue was in the mix as well, but it really came down to Iowa versus Minnesota. He took official visits to both schools. Iowa was always in great position for him. They have been favored to land him for several months now. I believe Iowa may have even been either the first offer overall or the first Power Four offer. I think it was the first Power Four offer. And then I saw some crystal balls put in, rivals.com, Elliot Clow. I don't know how to say his name. One of the Hawkeye Report insiders put in a crystal ball for Iowa to land Terrence Smith. This was about a week or so ago. And he set up another visit to Iowa. It's going to be next week against Iowa State. And then yesterday, or this morning rather, I looked, this came in yesterday, but I saw it this morning from On3, formerly 247 Sports, national recruiting analyst, Steve Wiltfong, one of the best in the biz, put in a 60% confidence meter for Terrence Smith to go to Iowa. And then about halfway through the day today, of course, Terrence Smith has committed to the Iowa Hawkeyes. A round of applause. This is a huge get, guys. I'm going to not only talk about how it's a big get for Iowa, but I'm also going to use this time to discuss Iowa's most recent recruiting strategies and just how well they have done in the state of Illinois the last couple of years. Let's start first with the impact. By the way, guys, if you guys are not subscribed, be sure to smash that subscribe button. We're inching closer to 2,000 subscribers. Help your boy get there. Support the content. At the very least, like, comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, as that definitely helps the algorithm out of the video popularity. So the impact. This is a huge get. And we'll start here. Number one, it's a first and very impressive get for one game suspended, newly appointed wide receiver coach, John Budmeyer, aka John Budemeyer, to land a 4-star composite wide receiver out of the state of Illinois. I believe John does have good connections in the state of Illinois. A lot of the coaches on the Iowa coaching staff have good connections in the state of Illinois, which I'm going to circle back to when we analyze how impressive Iowa has been in the state of Illinois recruiting. So that's first and foremost. This is an excellent get for John Budmeyer. The second thing is, of course, wide receiver. Although Iowa has bolstered tremendously, I would say, over the last couple of years, it's been kind of difficult because on one hand, while Iowa has bolstered their wide receiver group, they've also had a ton of turnover. They've seen Deontay Vines go elsewhere. We've seen Keegan Johnson go elsewhere. There's Arland Bruce, who went to Oklahoma State, but also got hit with the gambling investigation probe. So while Iowa was building it up, they also lost a lot of guys that they had recruited coming out of high school. But overall, if we're gonna analyze where the group stands today, I think they're in a good spot. It can always be better, but they've done so through the high school ranks and they've done so through the transfer portal. The transfer portal being Caden Wetschin, who is providing an impact to the Iowa Hawkeyes, did so last year and is doing so this year as well. And we may see that improve as the season goes on, especially at the wide receiver position. But he's definitely impactful in the return game as he is blazing fast and quick and just has the mentality to be successful in the kick game, or the kicking game, rather, punt and kick game. Then you have Seth Anderson and you have Caleb Brown, who both provided an immediate impact last year. Seth Anderson, it was more early on in the year last year. Caleb Brown, it was later in the year. But nonetheless, they have both provided reps and they are seeing the field. So all the guys that Iowa has landed in the transfer portal have come to Iowa and been impactful in their own way, which is definitely good news. Then you look at the high school ranks, and Iowa has landed Alex Mata, who was considered a 4-star by On3, high 3-star, one of the best recruits in the state of Iowa for his recruiting class. Very fast, very athletic. He's still developing. We've heard some good things, but he might be a year away from seeing significant reps. Iowa also landed Dayton Howard and Jarriett Bowie, potential Z and X receivers for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And we've heard good things about them as well. Definitely Jarriett Bowie, who was listed as the starting wide receiver for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I believe I saw him for a few series. He definitely got some reps against Illinois State, but I don't think he got any targets. But I think for him, the main goal is to just see the field and get his feet wet a little bit. Dayton Howard, I think, might be a year away as well, as he was definitely much more of a high upside developmental prospect, but he was a high 3-star recruit as well. I'm going to circle back to the recruiting rankings of all the Iowa wide receivers. And then most recently, Iowa landed Reese Vanderzee, who had a massive game, one of the best games that we have seen from a Iowa wide receiver in recent memory. And they also landed out of Illinois, yet again, a state that Iowa, and again, we're going to revisit that, a state that Iowa has recruited heavily in the last couple of years. They always have, but it's been even more pronounced the last couple of years. They landed a wide receiver. I'm blanking on his name right now. Let me think on it. KJ Parker. And KJ Parker is more of a slot receiver. And a lot of schools saw him potentially as a DB, potentially as a wide receiver. I think Iowa sees him more as a wide receiver. There's also one other guy that I forgot to mention, and I can't believe I did, within the transfer portal, former Northwestern recruit out of the state of Texas, Jacob Gill. And he also has seen the field and provided an immediate impact for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And he also did great in his first game against Illinois State. So all the transfer portal guys that Iowa has gone out and landed have provided an immediate impact in various levels to the Iowa Hawkeyes. And this just, again, shows how Iowa has built up the room, how they have utilized the high school ranks and the transfer portal to kind of year by year bolster the wide receiver room. And I think the wide receiver room is in a really good spot. And that brings me to my next point, which is, and I touched upon it already a little bit, which is a common misconception that a lot of Iowa fans have when they see how poor the Iowa offense has been is that they don't recruit the offensive side of the football, the skill positions, well, which is totally and utterly false. They honestly recruit the wide receiver position better than they probably should. If you consider how poor the Iowa offense has been, notwithstanding Tim Lester in recent memory, all the guys that they have landed have been high 3-star, 4-star guys from various recruiting sites. I mean, I can just name a few off the top of my head. Reese Vanderzee was a high 3-star, had multiple power forward level offers. Ultimately, it came down to Iowa and Iowa State. I'm probably going to pull it up here so you guys can see. Although in previous videos I've shown it many, many times. I pulled it up for the Iowa wide receiver positional preview and breakdown, but I'll go ahead and pull it up right now as well. So, I mean, check this out, guys. Reese Vanderzee, a middle to high 3-star, 87. Anything above a 85 or 86 is what I would consider a high 3-star. Let's look at some of the other guys. We have KJ Parker, who also was a mid to high 3-star prospect. Let's find his recruiting profile here really quick. KJ Parker, 87, 88. He was actually rated higher than Reese Vanderzee, 76, 5.6. The reason why Reese Vanderzee was not ranked higher was two reasons. One, he went to a really small school in central Leon or Central Lyon in Rock Rapids, Iowa, which is near, I believe, North Dakota or South Dakota and Minnesota borders. And for his senior year, he played quarterback. So it was very hard for recruiting services to truly evaluate him for the wide receiver that he was. But again, this conception or misconception rather is just that Iowa does not recruit the wide receiver position well. It's just not the case. Alex Mata, a 90 by On3, was considered a 4-star wide receiver by On3, or football player. I think they may have had him graded as an athlete. 87, 77, 5.7, bordering on a 4-star for Rivals. Let's see who else we have. Iowa also landed Terrell Washington Jr., who did come in as a running back or kind of like a dual threat. They started him at running back, and he did see the field in some spot duty for Iowa last year due to injuries. 88, 86, 77, 5.6. Okay. Dayton Howard, the high upside developmental prospect, 86, 87, 77, 5.6. Okay. This is just, it just is not accurate that they do not recruit the wide receiver position well. Alex Mata had multiple Power 4 offers. Terrell Washington Jr. was committed to Purdue and had multiple Power 4 offers. Jarriett Bowie had multiple Power 4 offers from Jesuit in Tampa, Florida, one of the best high schools in the country. 85, 86, 75, and 5.6. He's probably one of the lower graded wide receivers. But again, his high school, while it's really good, also did not throw the ball very often, which is probably why he didn't have even more offers than he did. So again, it's just not accurate, guys, that Iowa does not land high caliber wide receivers. Jacob Bostic, who's no longer with Iowa, who is at Texas A&M now, 88, 87, 77, and 5.7. High 3-star, bordering on a 4-star wide receiver. So I think I have made my point with this. And this is just another example of Iowa. And here's Terrence Smith right here. This is just yet another example of Iowa not only recruiting the position well, but recruiting it far better than they probably should and people realize. The last thing I want to say about this commitment that it says to me is there might be some optimism that Iowa has been able to generate when it comes to recruiting offensive positions. And I've said in previous videos that it is going to be tough sledding for Tim Lester and John Budmeyer, at least initially, to get rid of the stink that was the Brian Ferentz offense. And their only hope, at least initially, is going to be to sell prospects on the future, that they really do know what they're doing, that they have a new scheme and it is going to be better. They're going to be a better offense. And at some of these skill positions, they will have an opportunity to get targets, reps, and develop in Iowa's system. So just looking at Terrence Smith here before we go to my analysis of Iowa's recruiting in the state of Illinois, look at this, guys. 91. He's a top 200 prospect by On3, 247 Sports in 88. He's a consensus 4-star, top 350 player overall consensus, 78 by ESPN, 5.7 by Rivals. Okay. This is a huge get. He's 6'4", 185 pounds. He plays basketball. He's highly athletic. He's got some nice bounce. He definitely needs to add weight to his frame, but Iowa will be able to do that no problem. I can see this kid potentially coming in and seeing reps right away. The only thing that might get in the way of that is two things. One, Reese Vanderzee is obviously emerging, and if he is able to completely emerge this season as the definitive X receiver, I mean, he's got 3 years of eligibility left. It's going to be much harder for Terrence Smith to see the field, maybe compared to previous. Had he been in last year's class, he would have had a much better chance of seeing the field early on and carving out a role. But who knows? In Tim Lester's offense, perhaps there's room for multiple X receivers to see the field and get legitimate targets. He might even be able to play the Z. I think Iowa's, at least the initial reports are that they see him more as an outside receiver, X receiver who can go up and get 50-50 balls, be a red zone target, possession wide receiver, and things like that. And the other thing that might get in the way, again, is just guys in front of him. Dayton Howard is another big-bodied wide receiver. He's 6'4", 6'5". But I mean, if Dayton Howard decides to stay at Iowa, that will give Iowa, who used to have 0 X receivers, it will give them, just like that, 3. And again, it's a big if in this day and age, if Dayton Howard decides to stay at Iowa, but it will immediately give Iowa multiple solid X players at that position. So this is a big deal, guys. This is a huge get. Iowa does not currently have any other major targets on the board. I think they are kind of playing a wait and see game to see who decommits from other schools, that from some players who are already committed. Of course, hopefully Iowa is able to hold on to all the guys that they have right now. Iowa usually does a pretty good job of that. The only guy that I know of that is considering other schools somewhat is the #1 kicker in the country, according to Cole, Scott Starzik, who received a Michigan offer, and Michigan is recruiting him pretty hardcore. So hopefully Iowa is able to hold on to his commitment. I'm optimistic that they will be able to, as Iowa and LeVar Woods is so definitively good at special teams. They're one of the best in the country, but then again, so is Michigan. But again, Iowa is going to look at the high school ranks, see who emerges after their senior, or during and after their senior seasons of football. And if there's not really a ton of options out there, plus, they'll wait and see who is right for the pickings as far as decommitments or flips and things of that nature. Iowa has been able to flip guys in the past. either Power Four guys or guys that are currently committed to mid-major schools that have a really solid senior season, and Iowa is able to flip them. Iowa has been able to do that in the past. But if it's not really there, Iowa will absolutely not force it. And I think they will be totally willing to utilize the transfer portal. And, I did a video on the transfer portal. I just uploaded it. Um, Iowa, I think it really varies by year. We've seen Iowa, what they were willing to do in the class that they landed Caleb Brown, Seth Anderson, Rusty Feth. But then this year, yes, they landed Caden Proctor. They ended up losing him. But realistically, the only guy that they really landed was Cade Borid from North Dakota. And I don't even think that was, he's not a scholarship guy. So it's a year by year situation. And suffice it to say, I think Iowa does it the right way, which is they utilize the transfer portal to round out their roster and fill depth and position groups that needs more competition and depth. I'm not going to go too much more into it. Like I said, I made a separate video on that. You guys can check it out. But as far as this recruiting class, again, if Iowa, doesn't see any other targets, they will not hesitate to utilize it for the transfer portal. I was actually mistaken. There is one recruit that is still on the board. Iowa has not offered him yet. He is a safety / wide receiver out of, you guessed it, the state of Illinois, and his name is Clayton Lakatos. He is a high school teammate of Yossi Epinesa, and he is scheduled to visit Iowa next weekend against Iowa State. So look at how well Iowa has done in the state of Illinois. Iowa, if they are able to hold on to all of these guys, will have landed. And again, I've told you guys this in the past. I utilize On3 now as the main recruiting site. I do think 247 Sports and Rivals are fine as well, but the one that I primarily utilize is On3. If you don't know, the guy who started On3 is the same guy who founded 247 Sports and Rivals, and this is the current best one that he has started up with all of his expertise. But if things stay the same, Iowa will have landed 4 of the top 10 recruits in the state of Illinois and 5 of the top 15, according to On3, which is absolutely superb. And I made a post on Facebook stating that Iowa is making a concerted effort to make Illinois, and you can make the case they already have, making Illinois essentially a home state recruiting, an extension of in-state recruiting for the state of Iowa. That is essentially what they have made it. They, whether it's Seth Wallace or John Budmeyer or a combination of the two and their connections in the state of Illinois, Iowa has just done supremely well in the state of Illinois. And, we kind of see their focal points as far as area recruiting goes in ebbs and flows. But the last 3 years, Illinois and Iowa recruiting in that state has seen a massive uptick. And I think we are seeing the culmination of that this year by just how well they've done. I mean, not only that, but they also were able to land, Drew McPherson. So that's 6 players from the state of Illinois. And then they have a preferred walk-on in quarterback, Ryan Fitzgerald, the son of Pat Fitzgerald. So it really is crazy, guys. And then let's look at 2024 here. We're going to look at the last couple of years just to show you kind of how Iowa has done. They landed Will Nolan, one of the top 5 players. Brody McCaslin, one of the top 10. So they landed 2 of the top 10, according to On3. And they did almost land more than this. Josh Janowski, number 19 in the state of Illinois with a grade of 88. So that's 3 of the top 20. And I think, and then KJ Parker. So four of the top 31 players in the state of Illinois for this recruiting class. Not as good as this current one, but still really solid. And then lastly, we'll take a look at 2023 just to round this out. You have John Nestor, top 12. Kanan Leonard, top 15. They're both top 15. Khalil Tate, 18th. So they landed three of the top 20 players in the state of Illinois and four of the top 30 with Tegan Davis. So, I mean, this has been a long time coming. Iowa has landed at least four guys from the state of Illinois in each of the past three recruiting classes. So, this is awesome. You know, I think Iowa should still try to recruit the state of Iowa, which they are, because Iowa has seen a sharp uptick in the talent that the Power Four level talent that the state has. And just to show you guys that, let me go ahead and show you guys that as well, just to wrap this up. But Illinois is a great state to recruit from, and you know, I think Iowa should continue to do it because it has been this that has allowed them to have a consistent top 35 class year in, year out. So this was 2023, and they had, look at this. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 Power Four level guys. And I've said in the past, the state of Iowa was lucky to produce 5 Power Four level guys. Okay. And, you know, Iowa has kind of had varying levels of success recruiting in state. I mean, you know, you look at 2023 and they did okay. I mean, they didn't do as good as they could have done, but they still did okay. I think Iowa State did a little bit better in this recruiting class, especially when they were able to switch or flip rather David Kolker. Here's 20, and then of course Caden Proctor ended up going to Alabama. Last year they dominated. I think what it is when it's a recruiting class with more like small town Iowa guys, I think Iowa does better. But when it's more urban, more city prospects, you know, Des Moines area prospects, I think Iowa State does better. You guys can see here, Iowa landed 4, and this is well documented in previous videos I did. They landed 6 of the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they landed 4 of the top 5. So let's count up how many Power Four level prospects the state of Iowa had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And maybe 17. I don't know if this was an offer. Let's check out this one. No, I don't think it was. I think that is a preferred walk-on spot. So for this guy. So they had 16, the same as the year before, Power 5 level prospects, which is really solid. I mean, it is. Actually 17 with kicker Drew Miller, who was on scholarship to Georgia. Let's look at this current year. And this current year is kind of a down year. Next year is a really, really good, might be historically good recruiting class. Similarly to 2021 in-state recruiting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 currently. And as you guys can see, Iowa State has done a little bit better recruiting in state than Iowa. The last thing we're going to look at is, I think it was 2021, but On3 was not recruiting that year. No, it must have been 2022. Yeah, 2022. Yeah, in-state recruit. No, it was 2020 actually, I think. Actually, it might be kind of hard. Yeah, because On3 wasn't a thing then, so I'd have to go to 247 Sports. I think it was 2021. You know what? I know how I can find this out by just doing this right here. Boom. And then, yeah, so I think it was 2021 actually. Iowa ended up having a top 20 recruiting class. Yeah, look at that. Look at all these guys that Iowa landed from the state of Iowa. I mean, and on if you go to 247 Sports, I mean it's magnificent. It's really really good. So, 2026 is coming up with a big year. So to wrap this up, regardless, even though the state of Iowa has seen an uptick in talent being produced, and I think a lot of that has to do with Kirk Ferentz being at Iowa and the guys that he has coached coming back to the state of Iowa, building strength and conditioning programs, coaching high school football teams. It is still good for Iowa to go right next door to the state of Illinois and really lock down that state because there's even more, regardless of how good Iowa or the uptick the state of Iowa has had, Illinois still, and this is going to be the case for the foreseeable future as long as their population is bigger, always has at least 30 Power 5 level guys. And so it is right for the picking, and Iowa has done a much better job. Lastly, where things stand, Iowa is, we'll pull up, I'll pull up Iowa's recruiting ranking, not on screen, but I'm going to pull it up on my iPad here. I think Iowa is now 34th, and that's merely because they don't when compared to a lot. Yeah, they're 34th. When compare and 11th in the Big Ten, which is still pretty good considering how big the Big Ten is now. Uh, but the reason why is because Iowa doesn't have as many commits, which is odd because usually Iowa is ahead of the game in total number of recruits, but comparatively, Iowa has, if you look at the top 40 recruiting rankings, Iowa usually has less total commits than much of the other schools who are, a lot of them are already at, 18, 19, 20 recruit. There are some schools that already have 26 commits. So, that'll be something to keep an eye out on. All right, guys, welcome Terrence Smith. Show him love on his Instagram or Twitter, whatever the case may be. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis of Terrence Smith, the wide receiver position, and the state of Illinois for Iowa football recruiting. Be sure to smash the subscribe button, hit a like, help the algorithm, leave a comment. Last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy, will out in facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.